What's up guys, welcome back. OCG Metagame Breakdown for October, pretty much October 1st, 2017, October 1st, starting the new OCG format. But still, okay, OCG Metagame Breakdown. My intentions were that I wasn't going to put up a video this week, because you know, it's still Spyrals, right? Nothing really has changed, bar the new product release of the promotion pack 2017. But still, from seeing the deck lists, again, the article on Road of the King, a couple of the deck lists also on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization websites and on Ready for Duel as well. Some things caught my attention, so I eventually still decided to again make like an analysis indeed from past weekend from the OCG. All the links will be in the video description like always guys. Road of the King as well with the analysis, Ready for Duel for the deck lists, Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization website also, so again, if you want more information, check out these lists down below. First of all, and then as you saw already in the pie chart from the thumbnail of the video, yeah, what can I say, right? This is something we definitely expected about, and that's something what, of course, Road of the King also mentioned from, I believe, let me double check, about 39, indeed, 39 decks were gathered from only 3 tournaments, so that's not a lot of locals. We'll come back to that in a couple of moments. Were held, only three locals at least from his analysis, about, again, 39 deck lists, and then we have this pie chart, so 92% were Spyrals, were players who played Spyrals, and then, yeah, the other players were 3 Infernoids. But again, take at least take these statistics with a grain of salt. Again, it were just 3 locals, so I'll come back into like a bigger tournament within the next couple of moments. So again, these statistics, take them with a grain of salt, but again, it still tells us that, you know, for the obvious reason, Spyrals are still the current best deck in the OCG, definitely a tier 0 format. So, okay, let's just put this pie chart to the side and move on to part 2 here of the article, and that's the reason, as I mentioned earlier, that there weren't too many locals in the OCG past weekend, is there was like, and I apologize if I mispronounce it, like the Hattie Grand Championship 2017. With about 256 participants indeed, with the current, or at least with the following metagame breakdown as you see here. No surprise, Spyrals was the most represented deck, 172 players were playing Spyrals, and this is something I didn't really mention during my last videos about the OCG format, about the OCG metagame, is that the Strudo variant was and is just the most popular version of Spyrals. But for going into game 2, side-taking out Destrudo seems quite common. The other versions of Spiral, a couple of lists without Destrudo and a couple of lists with Destrudo and Darkworm. And then, yeah, a couple of hero lists as well, Sephra, Yangzing, Inferno, ABC, Cleaforts, and about 44 others. So you see here, the breakdown of this much bigger tournament is definitely different compared to the pie chart that I showed you guys earlier. So again, take the pie chart with a grain of salt. Okay, as for this tournament, so the Hattie Grand Championship, you know, again, 256 participants, was like a tournament held over 2 days, as you see here, and I believe eventually for day 2, there were eventually also 5 rounds of single elimination, so this should be a top 32, if I'm not mistaken. Again, quite important is that between both days, so both day 1 and day 2, the players who were qualified going into day 2 were allowed to change their main list, their deck list, you know, still playing Spiral, but, you know, change their deck list. So again, as we saw earlier, at least the players who eventually went to day 2 were pretty much all Spiral players. I believe only 2 other Spiral, at least other players not playing Spirals, eventually managed to, you know, get in the top 32 and, or at least are qualified going into day 2. And those were 2 Infernoid players. The list will follow, yeah, of course, very, very soon. quite impressive, quite interesting both Infernoid lists, but I'll come back to that in a couple of moments. The eventual winner, and as also mentioned on the Road of the King, the going into day 2, like the top 32 was kind of stacked with a lot of great players, a lot of players who also participated in the World Championship, like from past few years. So again, quite a stacked top 32 here for this particular tournament. The eventual winner, and here are the two lists he used. Well, you know, the list on the left is his first list on day 2, but again, as I mentioned before, going into day 2, if you're qualified for that top 32 day 2, you were allowed to change your main deck. So especially because it was revealed, of course, that going into day 2 pretty much everyone was playing Spyrals, so people, you know, adjusted their main and or side deck to, you know, prepare a little bit more against the mirror match, since it was kind of obvious that they would go up against the mirror match on day 2, single elimination. At least for his first list on day 1. There was like also an article on the Reddit, on the subreddit. Again, I will leave the link in the video description. His original report of the winner was in Japanese, but this article on the subreddit, or at least on Reddit, like a rough translation. But if you want more information, more in-depth information, highly recommend checking out this article. But to summarize it a little bit, at least the winner of this tournament, again, some of his main deck choices, a couple of interesting things. Definitely, he is still main decked the triple Super Agent. A couple of lists, a couple of Spiral players decided not to max out on Super Agent, but still, Super Agent can be that second, that second monster on the field to go for double Helix. As for Ghost Ogre as well, yeah, Maxi, instant staple, Ash Blossom, instant staple as he mentioned. Ghost Ogre, definitely an underestimated card as he mentioned in his report. Ghost Ogre, immense, at least like instantly takes out the opponent's Spiral resort, for example. And second, and that's also what he mentioned, is that he likes to use Ghost Ogre on your opponent's normal summon of Drone. Again, Drone is stacking the top deck cards, but again, instantly getting rid of your opponent's Drone, and again, that's one less monster they can use for a possible double Helix. Although this can definitely backfire, you know, if your opponent has something like Big Red or Soul Charge. But again, triple Ghost Ogre is definitely one of his strongest hand traps, next to like the gazillion others, right? Crow again, quite important, searchable off of the rank 1 Exceed. And this is also something quite interesting, is that especially on day 1, this winner, or at least the winner here, eventual winner from the event, decided to main deck the Lord Gaia. Gaia, I forgot its correct name, its full name, but he decided to main deck the Lord Gaia. A simple explanation for this is, you know, because of set rotation and gateway of chaos, I believe, you know, set rotation giving your opponent the gateway. If they don't have a legal target in their deck, they can't flip over the gateway, so that pretty much stuns them, prevents them from using their own field spell zone, and you know, no resort gives you an immense advantage over your opponent if you know if they can't use their field spells. So him main decking that searchable target off of Gateway of Chaos, you know, in the form of Lord Gaia, definitely an interesting pick for his main deck. But you see here on his day 2 deck list, he decided to you know, drop the Lord Gaia and the Gateway from his main deck to, as he also mentioned in his in his article, is that he expected players to drop the Gateway from their main deck as well, so his Lord Gaia would just be like dead weight to his main deck. Anyway, at least for the rest of the main deck, and that's again something quite interesting, is that the winner deck list did not opt to run machine duplication in the main deck. Simple explanation he gave was, you know, fearing first of all the hand traps. Maxi, quite notable of course here. Maxi is only at 2 in the OCG, but you know, if you activate Dupli either on Quick Fix or Drone, yeah, your opponent first of all gets like a 1-for-1, right, the draw of the special summon, and next to that, yeah, Maxi only gives you pluses, and that's a big difference with, you know, double summon. He opts to run 3 double summon in the main deck over machine duplication. Your opponent here with double summon is forced to preemptively activate that Maxi, so again, preventing your opponent from, break even and maybe go even, yeah, plus, at least plus out of the potential machine duplication, where you definitely get that plus off. And that's not the case with double summon. So again, that's quite interesting, since again, duplication, it's such a broken card, but this player opted not to run it and, yeah, not to put it in the main deck, but decided to, you know, main deck double summon over it. As for a couple of other things, as I didn't mention, here on day 2, on the right deck list here, he also opted to drop cherries, and that's also something he mentioned in his article, is that he really doesn't like winter cherries. He dropped it to 1 copy in his side deck on day 2, since again, winter cherries can be like that winner if you draw it in your opening hand, but if you don't draw it in your opening 5 cards going first, at least, yeah, if your opponent goes first, that is, your cherries isn't really too fantastic. It also doesn't really do anything against established boards, so that's why winter cherries isn't really the preferred super side deck card going into the mirror match. Then again, and this is again something quite interesting, is one of the new cards called Mudragon of the Swamp. It's like, well, it's not really a new Northern, but it's definitely a new Northern that's summonable off of your super polymerization. You know, super poly is still legal in the OCG, and you know your Mudragon only needs 2 monsters with the same attribute, but with different types. And as you see here, like common cards against your opponent's Spiral Field are like your opponent having the Tri-Gate Wizard, which is Earth, Cybers, the Bagushka, the rank 4 Exceed, which is also Earth, but a Fiend type, or, you know, they have like Spiral Double Helix, which is also an Earth, but a Warrior, so those are all possible targets to, you know, use Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization cannot be negated by Wizards, since you know how Super Poly works, and again, Super Poly is like that one of those few outs that can definitely put you back into the duel if your opponent goes first. You know how it goes, right? Like ending with Tri-Gate Wizard, with Bakushka, having that indestructible field if you go first as a Spiral player, but still, if your opponent has that side-decked Super Polymerization into Mudragon, they can still have a chance, right? Getting, at least using your opponent's monsters, and you having that extra level 4 monster on the field, quite strong. So again, very interesting, this new card, this new level 4 fusion and super polymerization. Here, also analysis of his mirror matches, and you know, going first, going second, also mentioned last week. Yeah, I think I pretty much explained everything right. Going first, siding out Maxi. Going second again, siding out 1 copy of Last Resort. Siding out the Destrudo again, going second. Quite important also against your opponent's hand traps, for example. But yeah, Drawn Lugbird siding in for game 2. Quite important, and also, as mentioned, the super polymerization. So a couple of interesting things that caught my attention, but again, very interesting. Highly recommend reading the entire article. Link will be in the video description. Other than this, yeah, a couple of other lists, Spiral lists as well. We have Infernoids. Both these lists were quite interesting. Both Infernoids lists shown here were able to top 32 this big event. The first one here on the left is like, has a small Subterror engine with Hidden City, double Fiendness, and the 1 Guru. Quite interesting here, this Infernoid list. The second Infernoid list was a 60 card build with Grass. Again, quite interesting. Grass is still at 3 in the OCG, and yet it isn't really doing that much. This player also decided to main deck a small Invoked engine, quite interesting but dangerous at the same time because of those triple desires. Yeah, BA as well. We see a couple of Zephyra lists. The lone Subterror list was also posted on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization website, but quite remarkable is that, and that's also something I saw previous weeks, is that if they're playing Subterrors, like a pure Subterror deck, the players don't really run the bigger behemoths. They are like just running the triple Guru, triple Fitness, and that's most of the time pretty much it. So these players don't really prefer running the bigger behemoths. Probably consistency and bricking because of that. We also have Samurais, you know, Gateway still at 3, but isn't really doing anything. Blue Eyes as well, but yeah, as for the rest, OCG format, quite interesting things here. Players are adapting their main deck, at least for Spyrals, and, you know, they're just developing their main deck to heavily play against that mirror match. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment or like if you enjoyed the video. Lithium signing out. Peace.